Hello, and welcome to the Pitt Rivers Museum.
The role of museums in the future, especially museums like this one, is to bring people together.
It might be seen as a museum that collects things, but it collects lives.
We are really challenging ideas of what research looks like.
To explore making and makers can only really be done using creative researchers.
In this first episode of Making the Pitt Rivers Museum, there's a lot to be excited about. We'll be hearing from X, a musician and art activist from Makanda, South Africa, and Rawz, a hip-hop and multimedia artist based right here in Oxford, about their work as the first creative fellows on the Making the Museum project. They've been working with our collection of sound recordings, as well as responding to objects on display in the galleries, and even the museum space itself. Those of you who've visited us before will know it's quite the experience to stand in a space like the Pitt Rivers Museum. You'll hear some of the poetry and music that they produced during their time as fellows throughout the episode. You've been listening to me for quite a while now, so who am I and what am I doing in your ears? Well, I'm Becky Martin, and I work on a research project called Making the Museum here at the Pitt Rivers. I work alongside our project lead, Chris Morton, and our project researcher, Beth Hodgett, both of whom you'll hear from today as we ask our fellows some of our most pressing questions about their work with the sound collections. Our research team also includes Marenka Thompson-Odlum and Chris Gosden, who I'm sure you'll hear from in future episodes. But today, you'll mostly be hearing from X and Rawz.
I'm Rawz, I'm an artist from Oxford. My practice is based around words and music, but I also do other forms of creative expression as well, drawing, collage, painting, all sorts of things. So yeah, just a creative, basically.
My name is Kolile Madinda. Most people call me X because my name starts with an X. I used to rap a lot when I was younger, and then I stopped because I decided that whatever I could be rapping about, I could be doing something about. So hence 2014 started the Black Power Station. So we found a space. So basically I'm an artist, but I can say I'm an art activist, using art as a way to stimulate people's mind to build a better society, because we inherited a broken society after 1994 in South Africa. I believe the art is the only tool for us to build a future, better society through the arts.
Dear old man, ezihlaka undishanazo kuzaba nzima undilingana. Bendisafuna ixeshana ithutyana lobonisana ngezekhaya. Njengenkulu ingwevu nyana katyhefu endilisekileyo yakhe kileyo kwasengqondweni, the father that raised a soldier that I am to stand the battleground. Le ndibubomi into enzima buyindoda kufuneka ubeqilima, ubamba isidima uthatha isikhokelo uquka amakhwiniba wakokose kozaziba sentliziyo wamkele intiyo uvube noba isiyo is a struggle I'm willing to learn, living with the contradictions of loving family and keeping with the traditions that are conflicted with Western colonial constructions. Black family are constantly in construction, developed to the mind. Well, I need a father, 1 2 1 2. I need a father, 1 2 1 2. I need a father, 1 2 1 2. I need a father, 1 2.
The first thing that I touched on in the archives, the first thing that I worked with creatively was this 30-minute forest recording. Hopefully it's something I remember for a long time to come. It's sort of the experience of sitting with my headphones on in my workshop and just being in that forest or that forest being in me or both of those things at the same time. You know, that moment that was captured, that 30 minutes it was captured in 1980 something, whatever it was, in a place that I've never been, in a environment that I've never seen or smelled or touched, but a part of it could be with me and I could be with it. And so yeah, that was a really special moment to kind of start the creative process. And meeting people that I can't see and hearing things that I've never touched. You know, it's it's magic.
Away from the shore, restore spirit, shape framed by the light of the sun. A tale spun for generations to come. The story begun, what it becomes, forgotten for some, remembered. Last words in the light of the embers. A sky full of stars, in your eyes glance, a fire on a high hill. On a high hill, a fire. On a high hill, a fire. On a high hill, a fire. On a high hill. You must climb, acquire new skills, learn how to build. It's time to find out. It's time. There's a fire to find. There's a fire to find. There's a fire to find. There's a fire to find.
I guess for me, it's the same feeling. I love sound. I'm obsessed with things that make sound, even the sounds we don't hear. So I always choose the weird ones, you know, because I want to give attention. So the one I'll be experimenting with first is the so-called bed recorded version of record cylinder, you know, and I love it because it has that feeling that even in someone who's a sampler or someone who's into hip-hop would gravitate towards to kind of create a feeling of the big vinyl, like, you know, it is one of the coolest things, but imagine taking a recording that you don't really know what is being played. It's not clear to your ear. So for me, that's what I'm enjoying with this recording is the atmosphere, not the recordings, yes, but also the atmosphere they recorded in, because I'm interested about the environment that they were created in. And part of me, I can say, interacting with the recordings, there's many levels of me, why am I interacting with them. One is musically, I would want to get the genius and the greatness of talent of these people. I know they never went to a class this might have been an instrument extended to their father's father, so it might be in a community. I'm interested in what channeling of energy were they trying to give. So I'm obsessed with many levels. So with the music, and also I'm trying to interact the music and the museum itself and myself being present. So I think that has been my approach, is like, how do I get myself present, as Rose is saying, that the environment is never been in. And at the same time, it's like the musicians, we're listening to them in an environment they've never been in, you know. So it's a beautiful transaction, and then it's also a beginning, I think, of a conversation between musicians, me and that person who was recorded. I think that's also a transaction between me and that person. And beside me meeting Rose as a musician, also as someone we share. It's funny that there's commonality with, beside our music, what he's trying to do with music and connecting creatively with things around our community. So for me, that's been the magic in all of this, is to learn.
Basically, today you're learning a little bit of listening from the body, not technically understanding the language, but just the body. This song is called Ubomi, Life. Ndikhumbula ndiseityongwane ndisenofifana nxana ndibethwa ngumvandedo ndizivalele phaa kum erumini ndizive ndicula bawo ndenzani na ingaba lameva ndihlaba yoze iziphoso zam zokuzalwa ngashwa ezisetyenziswa zingalindelanga kuhlawulwa lena impilo nganahlawulwa umntu wothi onekhaya kubeqaleni ekhayeni indawo nozinzo nothando oluphuhlisayo qhwalelayo silelayo kwezimeko zempumelelo wena ukwazi noba ngumsimelelo ukwazi abaphantsi bazokupha intsikelelo ukwazi abaphantsi bazokumntsikelelo. Ukubhala lengoma andiphindisi sixiba ndiba ndivala isiziba sogxabam sentlupheko songabi nakhaya namntu umnyono zisulo zenyembezi mawukoso sinqala ukuzalwa kwethu sele lityala bayalibala sisithi nje ngabo basizala ukusilahla loo nto ibonisa ubugwala bakuni ukuthi ningasifuni siphele singaboni izihange sekuhlaleni izirobhe basazibhankeni izikade zomama babantu ezimarikeni abanqibe ezitafuleni abanqibe ezitafuleni zabakhenkethi ukube ngekho indlela ukuthi masendleke kube lula masiqhatheke sisebenzele iziyobisi.
I didn't pick anything that has traditions within my Xhosa community. I picked something that picked me because Noel sent me a bunch, you know, but that one was like, I want that, you know. So I think also there's that journey of looking for something. We might realize if you can research more on the sounds, maybe there might be connections to self there.
Yeah.
Even me, if I can dig deep to the musician that was recorded, you might realize the reason the body speaks first than my own self and my comfort is because there's something greater than just me. So it might sound all philosophical, but the reality is you can't be a creative and not be in touch with self. So I think for me, that's what I'm enjoying. And he has made me write, and this project made me write again, because I'm always trying to organize people to write around ideas like these ones. But now I am in it, which is good.
I just wanted to pick up on something you're saying about communication and language, that like music or any creativity, I look at it as a language, and it's a way of saying things that maybe our spoken language, our words can't say, but we can articulate it with a note or a sound or a color or a shape. You know, we can articulate things that words can't say, and so it's like having this conversation with whether it's a musician or a forest even, you know, it's like there's something that comes through that is more than, even if I did live in 1950 in that part of Africa and meet that person, there's something that I can know about them through these recordings that I might not even know if I did meet them, you know. So, yeah, again, it's just there's something that's another reason why this is worth doing, you know.
And music or sounds is a connector to life. It's like even the cliche thing about when people say, is he alive? They hear the pulse. Pulse is sound, you know, like, so like it is that thing, like even most people say when it hits you, you feel no pain. How does it hit you? Basically, it's the inside, it's the natural self, the thing that we cannot see, but you only see it throughout the person who's listening's eyes, that there's an emotional connection. So for me, I think the sounds are beyond the sounds that you react to it technically because it's loud, but it's the emotional connection to self. So for me, I think the beauty of this whole project is like we have more to learn to ourselves as a people who are physically hear about the sounds. And I think for me, if I would have spent more time listening to more, I would have never done anything, because it's honestly speaking, it's difficult to even write with the sounds, because you're like, I'm done. The performance is not the performance. It's like, me, I'm okay. Like, what do I need to do? I'm fine. I could just write one line. Thank you for letting me listen to the sound. Actually, this was a very transformative process for me. Like, there was a moment that I felt like that, like, what can I do? This is great. Like, what am I doing? I'm going to be downplaying on this. Like, my memory is not ready to actually deal with this. But because it's so emotional, I don't want to lie. Like, it's real. Yeah.
Like you say, just listening to it is, it's a powerful thing. When you listen to it in a way that is kind of open to receiving it, and like I want to get quite deep now, because it's like it's energy. Like sound is energy, and by recording it, we're capturing that energy, and then when I play it through my speakers at home, that energy is released again into my home. That time, that place, that whatever it is with me, and so there is a part of that time is now as well, and that energy that left this imprint in that wax cylinder or whatever it is, that energy is alive again, when we listen to that recording, and when we hear it, it's vibrating our eardrum now, like. So that vibration that left the print in the wax cylinder is the same vibration that is now vibrating my eardrum and affecting my biology and being interpreted by my brain and giving me goosebumps and all of these things, like that's
time traveling.
Yeah, time traveling, it is. And it's and it's the same thing that, like, all of these, whether it's a part in the case in the museum or whatever it is, they've all got that energy in them that, like, if I was to scratch this table now, like, that is my energy being put into this table, and the energy that moved the molecules of the wood out of the way for my fingernail to go into the wood, like, that energy is recorded there now. And it's in every single thing in there, every single thing in any of the collections. It's all there. It's all that kind of stored energy,
The first thing we heard was her heart, breath, steps from the inside. The first thing we heard was her heart, breath, steps from the inside. The first thing we heard was her heart, breath, steps from the inside. The first thing we heard was her heart, breath, steps from the inside. The first thing we heard was her heart, breath, steps from the inside. The first thing we heard was her heart, breath, steps from the inside. The first thing we heard was her heart, breath, steps from the inside. The first thing we heard was her heart, breath, steps from the inside. Her voice, her voice, her voice, her voice, her voice opened our eyes, anointed our ears, drum the first vibration. The year of our birth comes and passes, the earth turns, unrehearsed, We open our mouths and trust the right words burst from our lungs. We know the verse and the hook, though it's yet to be sung. Arrived here as one. Now we've begun, things can never be the same, but we remain in unison. The hurdles overcome, let us hear. So let us be here. So let us be.
Does it make a difference to you as artists who are obviously very informed on sound, the difference between listening to a digital recording of a wax cylinder versus listening to an original? And how do you think that might change or enhance this process?
To the actual wax cylinder, I think for me, I would love to do that because when something, like the more you record something, you know, there's bits of the information that are lost. Each time it's recorded, and that, you know, I guess that's part of a process that, as a hip hop artist, I guess I embrace that and I work with that loss and that it's part of the texture that I like. But it would be really special to actually directly receive those those vibrations, like closer to the source, I guess, you know.
I think for me, it's amazing that this one recording is making us have like a serious conversation about the entire universe of sound. Mm-hmm. So meeting the source is the scariest moment because it's like there's so much you would want. So much you would want to speak with the source. If there could be that chance to go time traveling to 100 years or 50 years and say, that guy who played, maybe in these corridors, there might be someone from that family who might have never met that person, but luckily I've met it through the sound. And I think we are meeting those people, and those moments are magical because it's like now we are given ideas to play with these, to make them deliberately sounding in a certain way. So in a way, I feel part of me like a researcher, part of me being inspired to replicate and also find uniqueness in it. So I think the source, it's scary. I'll be overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed every time when I go through things that were recorded way, way back. You feel like this magical moment, I wish I was there, but it was not my time yet. But at this moment, I treasure the person who recorded it because I can travel to that moment and understand why certain things we long for. Because we long for, I can use a word like authenticity. We're longing for that when we listen to music. And these recordings gives you a glimpse of music, not too much digitized, but raw, like mistakes. You could hear like, okay, this person is making a mistake. Like now when you're producing music, people, when you make a mistake or string breaks, it's like everybody sees a mistake or something wrong, you know, judgmental. These people were playing for the sake of energy.
That point about kind of the randomness, and you know, you mentioned it a couple of times about like that, what was classified as a bad recording, but actually it's like that's what you love, that's what you wanted.
Classic.
Like, and it's and I think it's a really just I guess to draw a bit of a parallel that, like, you know, when I make, so even the music that I've made using these archives, I don't know how someone's going to interpret that. I made it with an idea of like, this is what I want to say, and this is what I want to communicate. But I don't know how someone else might be inspired by that or how they might interpret it. So in the same way that like this person made a recording and they're like, oh, that's a bad recording, but X loves it. Like, in the same way that I might, it's happened to me that I've made tracks and I'm like, a few years later, I'm like, I've happily forgotten that I made that track. And someone will come to me and say, oh yeah, that track you did, I loved that track. That helped me through this time, or that, that inspired me to do that, or, like I was listening to that track when I did this painting or whatever, so you don't know when you're making a recording or when you're making a piece of art, you don't know kind of the ripples and the echoes that it's going to have into the future, and how that's going to create new ripples and echoes, and then those ripples and echoes will create new ones, and so we were talking earlier about someone who used to work in the Pit Rivers called Ellen LaRue, and who was an influence on Noel, and I'm sure a lot of other people who work here. And even though I never met her, the ripples that she created that inspired Noel, that now I meet Noel, and Noel brings me here, so there's still this connection between me and Ellen LaRue, even though we never met. The ripples that she left behind are still here, so they're still a part of her. They're still here, in the same way that the energy in those recordings, when we listen to it, is still here as well. So yeah, there's a lot of these circles.
See, everything starts with a story, emerging from eternity to be here, now, in this place, in this hour, this house of creation, home to many chronicles, like a library, stores stories, shares them. But books aren't necessarily the medium. Tales permeate the place like poltergeists, possessing those they pass through, becoming part of them, part of their story, their journey.
I love this idea of the ripples and the circles and all the people and kind of makers it brings in. We've talked about environment as a maker, as well as the recorders, people who are working at museums, and people who are, coordinating things, as well as players of instruments, people who make instruments, people who take those recordings and remix them. And how do you guys see yourselves within that circle of makers?
I think for me, like any artist, I think for me, it's an inspiration first. I think I see myself as a student and as someone who must continue archiving good sound, archiving ideas, archiving past, future, present. So I feel like I'm a custodian of whatever was in the past. And as a creator or creative, my duty is to learn and create. So I feel myself in part of all this. I want to sound unique. I don't want to sound I am just a copy and paste of something else. So through this process, I feel I'm uniquely every day being revived to sound, as I said before, authentic, sound like I'm a creator within the environment that influences me. I think these sounds are influencing the direction I've already taken. And it's sort of like I'm a creative, revived, I can say question mark, revived musician to actually produce music that can acknowledge the wrongs, acknowledge the future goodness. So I think that's the beauty. I feel like I'm what do you call those people? Diplomatic mediator or something. I feel like between the people who say they're ethically recorded people and all those things, I feel I'm trying to be that ethical mediator, says, okay, let me create from this and say, we acknowledge these two people, of the artist who was playing and the recorder, and me, I'm the one who's taking from both of them and being a musician and create some new life.
One of the purposes of art is to inspire more art. And so, like, I guess that's how I see myself in that continuum, that like I'm receiving art, I'm being inspired by it, I'm creating art and I'm putting it out so other people can be inspired by it. And when I say art, I guess I'm using a quite loose definition of that. You know, I think sometimes art is just living, you know, and just living in a certain way can be art. So yeah, that's what I want to do, and that's kind of, I guess, how I see myself in these circles, in these continuums, is that I'm part of continuing it, you know. And it's like I receive some gifts, and if I don't continue to share, to create more and to share gifts with other people, then that stops with me. And like, I don't want that to happen. I don't want to be where it stops, you know. I want to be part of it continuing.
We're talking now kind of about this kind of responsibilities towards the future almost, as well as the responsibilities towards the past. And I'm kind of curious how you sort of see, maybe in reflection to what you've done, you know, with us in the past sort of few weeks, but where do you think the future of working with museums and, you know, the work that we should be doing as museum professionals, and, you know, the work that you as creatives would like to do for museums, where do you see that going in the future?
I think the role of museums in the future, especially museums like this one, is to bring people together and to show that the separation of and the kind of the ways that we classify ourselves or classify each other and put each other into boxes and categorize and stuff, like all of that is ultimately, to me at least, is an illusion. And that, like, I think actually places like this demonstrate that whether you're living in the coldness of North America or you're living in a jungle somewhere, you need to eat, you need to be with your family, you need to have shelter, you need to create art. There's these things that we all share, that like, we're not separate and different, you know. We might have different ways of flavouring our food or different ways of wearing our garments or whatever, but ultimately, like, we're just part of an extended family that it isn't that different at all. And I think a place like the Pitt Rivers Museum is just an undeniable example of that like, we called this event Gathering Place, because it's a gathering of all of these objects, but also it's a gathering of people and cultures and time and all of these things that we can see. There's actually like this one thread, you know. Me and X made a track last night, and I'm going to try and remember one of the lines from it now. It was something about, we're divided into countries until we see that we're one tree. And that's the way I see it. It's like this space and museums can be, and I think should be, a demonstration that we're one tree. We're not divided, we're not separate things. We're just branches of this same tree.
It's beautiful because the whole song is about, we are not divided as a people, but the people who gives us the illusion of division. So part of the whole process, I think what I like and hope it could be an extension to more other artists, with the intention to say what is kept here exists. It has a pulse itself, because every instrument, sound that we've listened to was made by people. So meaning that it is alive. It is made by someone. It's not created by itself. So it still carries that person in it, whether we don't know the person, whether it's dated on time, meaning that you're connected to a history. So meaning that it might be seen as a museum that collects things, but it collects lives, people's emotions, people's histories, people's time, and we evolving around it. So for me, it's nice to see something in England and say, okay, I see why in Makhanda my city looks like here because of the history, but at the same time I see Ingai, which we use for ceremonial, and then seeing a picture which we did last week that looks exactly like a ceramic piece done, and it's here behind the glass. It's like, okay, we still continue. We still kneel when we're drinking from these cups. So in a way, I feel the university, yes, they must continue enabling creatives to interact with what is here.
I love as well that the archives are still being added to, and I think that's really important that should be continued. Even commissioning artists to make objects for the collection and things like that, I think the collection should be alive as well. I think there's a perception that I probably held myself until fairly recently, that a museum is a place where someone went out in Victorian times, collected a load of things, put them there, and here they are, and nothing ever changes, and I think that's so reductive of not only history and kind of what we are, but also like the cultures and the communities that created these things, that it's sort of what this person or this place was in 1860 or whatever is not the same as it is now. And so if we only show what it was in 1860, we're not being true to ourselves, we're not being true to what's happening now. And I think adding new things to the collection is a way of showing that everything is changing, everything is always evolving, and those inspirations that we receive from generations before us are influencing us to create new things now. And that conversation is continuing. That conversation will never stop. And it didn't stop in 1860 or whatever when that thing was collected, and it's not stopping now. Some of the things I'm saying now, I might not think in 10 days or 10 years or whatever. My opinions will change depending on what I receive and where I go and things. So yeah, I think it's really important that it's a difficult thing for institutions to deal with, but I think the collection needs to be constantly expanding, because that's what life is,
Eyes wide, mind in the stars, steps on the path, blessed with the task to party. Ask, how can he say no? Let put the chance. What he says, let the pain go. Last light of the day glow. See things all the same. Move from the drought to the rain. Move from the mountain to plain. Use all the words that he made. Needs no excuse to participate. Sunset till it gets late. Bless new days with a serenade. Yes, till sunrise. Unwind the night. Find time for life. Till sunrise. Unwind the night. Find time for life. Till sunrise. Unwind the night. Find time for life. Till sunrise. Unwind the night. Find time for life. Till sunrise. Unwind the night. Find time for life.
I'm interested in how you both been here as creative fellows and in residence, as it were, and able to shape work that is recorded and will be performed in situ, in the space here. So when I first moved to South Africa, I was following sounds I knew nothing about. Here, we've been exchanging sounds across South Africa, Oxford, US, and now here in presence. And two recordings that have cropped up is a wax cylinder recorded in 1909. We know by a government anthropologist. Didn't really know how to record. You hear the technology, the uncertainty, a very extractive mode. The forest recordings, we know something about those histories, an attempt to document a whole way of life by an external collector who spent time here, who's in the sound bed, you know. So we interact with the histories. There's students, curators here that know a lot about the collectors and these sorts of things. But there's also this concentrated maker load that's in that gallery space, and you've been absorbing and around all of that as you compose and write. And so I wonder how important that's been to your process to write, and also what the composition and performance brings to the space and the collections, you know.
Yeah, it's essential for me. It's like it's a huge part of it that, like, those, you know, I mentioned earlier about those kind of ripples that through time, you know, and continuing this kind of cycle. Like, that's all part of that, like, you know, there might be a part that I never really paid attention to, that, like, you know, just glanced out of the corner of my eye, but there's a part of that is in me because it's I've interacted with that energy from it. And so whoever made that pot, a part of them is in me, and a part of them is in whatever I do from now on, you know. So, like, it's massively inspiring, and more than inspiring, there isn't a word for what it is, but inspiring, I guess, is the closest thing. That, like it wouldn't be the same thing. Like, if I was to take those recordings and climb up a mountain and listen to them, then I would produce something completely different, you know. So it's like everything is part of it, you know, and everything makes it what it is.
Yeah, for me, I think it's a very difficult one, but also it's relieving, you know. I think for me, if I was going to finish recording in Makhanda and not come here, I know many ways I could have done that, but my recording won't be influenced by the present moment. I remember when I arrived and I walked around, I looked at the titles and, like, why? Like, my mind was, like, kept on being like the noise of the people and the titles, you know, so much was going on. And I took off my headphones. I was like, took out my bag, the book was in my pocket, so I took it out, I put it on. I felt like researching, like a researcher, like I put on points. But as much as I could remember, it's like I finished a poem about reflecting. So my writings are more like reflecting to my experience, to the environment that I was exposed to. And the environment that I had to walk around first, I saw beadworks that I think are related to Amaglecha, which is spiritual people. I see beadworks that I could feel like I know certain things cannot be mixed because they might be read by people for certain stages and stuff like that. So if they catalog together, they are conflicting. When they put things together, they put them together because these are clay pots. They don't put them, okay, they have different purposes, so they should not be mixed. So there's energies that are conflicted in these. So for me, I kind of felt there's so much fighting within these things. And then there was one line in my poem that speaks about the seed, that, it's like a shattered seed. But that shattered seed, even if you shatter it, it will grow something else. So I felt like I could take these things home, but these things have made life here. So in my poem, they like talking to me. It's like, okay, take a sip in this cup, You come a long way. You are thirsty. We're fine. We have settled here. Just tell them that we're good.
And it goes like this. Incindi yengcambu ihlaphazekile. Izizwe ezimnyama zihlazekile. Ingqondo ihlulekile. Umphefumulo uxhwalekile. Indlela ikude. Khabula ulebhekile. You come a long way, grandson. Kodwa ke izandi zezinyanya zona aziyekelanga ungqisha. Sikhumbuleni kololizwe, vuka Africa.
So for me, I was thirsty for knowledge and understanding. So in a way, it's kind of like a visit to myself. So the process is more myself connecting to the older self. To say, okay, continue to what you're thinking on the process of trying to build a society that understands that there were these things that were mixed, but try to find that little time to pair them right, be part of that puzzle that wants to pair them right. So I guess for me, that's the feeling. Like in the mountain, I wouldn't write because I would enjoy the air. And then when I get home, then I was like reflect on it. So, but I've really never been that creative in terms of writing music. But here, 3 poems came up just like that. And they were the pen didn't stutter, it moved. And I only stopped because I looked at the time. But I know that I would have continued writing. Even now, I'm feeling it will never be complete. I cannot complete my experience because an experience is continuously shaping. So I think for me, my moments, they're like the same recordings. That moment of me writing that poem, even if I could be asked to do it again, I won't write it the same way because it continuously taking shape. So hence, obviously next time when we do this, it'll be much more explosive, because I think this is a small micro, and that I think it is expanding inside me. I think something is growing. It's like a ball that is rolling, when you feel home, I feel like I'm not in a new environment because of what I see and because of the people that I've met. It feels like I've been here before because of the familiarity of things I see, the spears, the Zulu Ulanduga spears, the beadwork. I saw mfingo, I saw fabric. So I know these things, I feel these things, So in a way, I feel the sounds become the ceremonial existence of all what is here. So sound supersedes in a way because even if there was a ceremony, there will be someone singing, a drum will be hidden. Even if it's something from Asia, there'll be music made. So in a way, you feel like sound supersedes. I want to listen to more recordings. I want to record more myself. And I think there's more exhibition that could be done. Something that could be more like a week long, that could be done. So the gathering will decide. Like any gathering there's a specific, we are gathering for this purpose, but the gathering itself will give birth to more gatherings.
Now, you might be wondering what creative fellowships like this have to do with research here at the museum. I asked Chris Morton and Beth Hodgett to tell us a bit more about the Making the Museum research project and what these creative collaborations add to how we understand and approach our collections here at the museum.
Yeah, the inspiration for Making the Museum was really, I guess, work I've been doing with guys like Rawz and X and others over 20 years or so more at the Pit Rivers, which really remind you, like, all the time that culture is living. Cultures come together in this place in a living way, even though they come from many time periods. And also, you know, it seems like an obvious thing that collections are made by people, and that the museum is full of, as they talk about, like, the energies of makers. But actually, for the longest time, museums have been mostly obsessed with their own histories, their own networks, their own intellectual histories, and the collectors, like the takers of objects. So yeah, it seems like an obvious thing to go back to makers, but it's also a new thing. Seeing the museum as an assemblage of the agency of many makers, brings up lots of interesting questions about what it is to go into a museum and be affected by all of these objects, especially in a space like the Pit Rivers, which is 50,000 objects on display. It's almost like a unique or the best place to talk about the collective agency of objects on a museum visitor. So that's also kind of an important set of thoughts we had around the museum, and how, like, the energies, as they talk about, of the makers can be transferred, maybe. That concept of time travelling. They talk about the energy being re-released in a musical recording, but can we trace that or look at that in other types of objects, whether that be photographs of ancestors, being re-socialised for descendants and communities, or objects resonating with the marks made and the craft and the skill of those original makers, causing excitement and other types of bewilderment almost in like communities today. So yeah, that's what we're doing. We started with these guys in I think an amazing way, because fellows are all intentionally researchers who work in a creative mode and methods, because of course talking about the way that museums have often researched their networks in the past, it could have been an ethnomusicologist or an archaeologist who we brought in to research with us the collections, but to explore making and makers, and to research it in that most appropriate way, I think can only really be done using creative researchers. And I think the way they talk about their process and things is as distinct and important a research process as any other academic research process, and they're extremely eloquent. The reason we started off with music in the project is really not anything that we considered before. It's really a question of having the opportunity to do it, really, because Noel Lobley from University of Virginia was here on sabbatical, and he's really fantastic, bringing it together of creative practitioners around ethnographic archives, and this is absolutely what we wanted to do with the project. So yeah, it kind of all fell into place nicely, and having Noel on hand to help organise events like the gathering, and to help us logistically bring over X from South Africa was really thanks to him.
It might also be helpful to add a kind of little kind of introduction to making a museum in the sense of sort of saying that, you know, we're an AHRC funded project, you know, we're here for 3 years, and we're kind of doing, you know, various different stages of research, of which, you know, the creative fellowships that we're discussing today is kind of one output of, and we're also doing database analysis to look at what information about makers do we currently have in the museum database. Are there instances where we maybe have kind of fuzzy or, you know, slight attributions that might lead us to capturing some maker identities, or, you know, recovering or resurfacing them, and then also working with archival research and with the collections here in the museum to try and see again if we can kind of find out more about the people who made the museum. And there's this beautiful thing that Chris writes in our original funding proposal that kind of said, you know, Pitt Rivers didn't make the museum that bears his name. It's the people who made and used the objects and are still making and using the objects that make the museum and make it what it is. And I think that's what's really exciting about that project, that we get to tap into that. And like, you know, for myself, you know, coming from a background as someone who did anthropology in this museum from my master's, but then went on to archaeology, you know, I've always had that interest in the tactility, and as someone who's also a maker, you know, I crochet, I knit, I sew, and bringing that kind of awareness in is something that's really interesting in this project, because we are really challenging ideas of what research looks like, and about research that comes from the hands and from the kind of the body, and the way that really makes us think differently about not just the objects that we have here, but also about the ways in which we, you know, as professionals can practice. And I think one of the things I'm really interested in about the sound collections, and I'm really pleased this is one of the first things we've kind of hit the ground running with, is this idea that it really does explode that idea of what it means to make, because there are in the database, you know, we're very often limited. We have these fields and they say sort of named performer, singular, named recorder, singular. And, you know, listening to Rawz and X talk about those sound collections, you know, you're hearing the field archaeologists, but you're also hearing, you know, Rawz talks about like hearing the sort of insects chirp, or like the sound of the wind in a recording. We hear the wax cylinder and the distortions it gives, and then the recordings come back to the museum, and those wax cylinders, which can only be played once or twice, get digitally recorded, and then someone sits down, a volunteer or a curator, and edits those recordings and sometimes separates long recordings into tracks, which again might not necessarily reflect the natural or the original way in which those sounds came together. And all of these kind of collectively kind of make the sound that we listen to when we're in the archive today. And I think that's something really exciting and really kind of challenges us to, again, think differently about making.
Absolutely, and you know, I like the way they talk about making archives and contributing to archives of the future. And you know, obviously museums have celebrated a lot the creators of archives, and there are analogies, I guess, between, you know, creating a sound archive and creating a vitrine full of objects. It's a thing that has sources, as they say, you know, within them from original makers, etc. But they're also a thing apart, a thing of themselves, a creation of the museum and its processes. And that sort of sediments and layers of that over time, which can be kind of excavated, if you want to take an archaeological metaphor, but also just, you know, revived. So that, as you say, that has enabled us to think about making in a very, you know, various way, in a very creative way, I guess, from the beginning. Thinking about remaking and making is something that I think is going to be a theme throughout the whole project.
And I don't think making's ever something that finishes. You know, I do this all the time. I'll make something and I'll keep looking at it and being like, I'm just going to add this bit, I'm just going to take this away. And there is always that, you know, dialogue with objects and that kind of push to the conversation. And it's not thinking about processes, I think, is always really helpful. You know, again, as an archaeologist, you know, things happening over time and these kind of different stages in the life of a place or an object, and all of these kind of, in the same way that people, I think, you know, we kind of archive things inside us, and I can point to one individual thing or moment and say that's what made me me. It's a kind of a accumulation of everyone I've ever spoken to, you know, the recipes that my friends taught me to cook, the kind of phrases that, you know, my dad used to say, and all of these things kind of amalgamate. And I think objects are like that, they gather these things in them, and we can
begin to kind of peel away those layers and look at those stories that they tell us.
I very much appreciated what they had to say about the kind of politics of representation, and it's certainly something we wanted to explore in the project as roots forward, roots past, the kind of reductive and sort of stultifying positions that people can talk themselves into around museum collections, where the agency of the original communities and creatives and makers can really get sidelined and diminished as a result of the political discussions around the creations of the archives in the first place. So the talk about connecting the sources and energies and the agencies of those original makers really is what we hope to explore in terms of routes forward for the Ethnographic Museum. This getting back to makers and away from takers is how we phrased it. And that obsession with taking, there are important processes that museums are going through with regard to the ethics of historical collecting. But if that stops us from looking at productive and creative routes forward, then the museum is just going to turn into a sort of an archive of its own thoughts over time. And I really hope they don't, especially ethnographic museums. That's a danger, I always feel.
Yeah, so it feels like the right project at the right time to kind of be thinking through these really big questions that are affecting not just the Pitt Rivers, but sort of pretty much every museum.
This one says Insukapi. Insukapi is the origin. So this one we play around the idea of understanding the origin. Before, and before what we call now. It says, Nyana womntu, wena wambile amazwe, wofikelela apho singafikelela ngakhona. Thina sihambile phambi kwexesha sofika apho ngafikelela ngakhona. Thatha ke, funda ke, izizwe ngezizwe zihlangene. Zona zizwe zithungelene, wena ke bathungele nawe. Hlabela ukhwelo, uqamagushe apho kufanele kukho khona. Uhlabele ukhwelo kwizizwe ngezizwe, wena ke ungcwalisekile enhliziyweni engqondweni. Mamela nxa kuthethwa, zinza nxa uxelelwa, mamela imfundo kuba ubomi imfundo. So basically, this one was more of like the origins as people. I spoke as a traveler, relating that as a people, we come from far as people. So your duty as anyone who travels is to plant a seed. So my journey then was to open up the conversation and share with you this beautiful place.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Making the Pitt Rivers Museum. We hope you enjoyed exploring how makers, like the musicians we've heard from today, can be at the heart of a new approach to museum research. You've been listening to X and Rawz, Chris Morton, Beth Hodgett, Noel Lobley, and me, Becky Martin. Our episode release schedule is guided by our real-time work with artists, researchers, and community experts, so it might be a little irregular. If you want to make sure you hear from us as soon as we put out a new episode, make sure to subscribe, follow, or bookmark us wherever you get your podcasts. We already know that we'll be back for our next episode with Kaleni Fernando, our first SAN Community Visiting Fellow here at Oxford. So we do hope you'll join us next time to hear about the stories our SAN collections tell and the work she's been doing to help us improve our museum labelling. Until then, we've been making the museum.
Inside, her voice. Her voice.